Before a song is released, a record is produced, or a chorus is written, the musicians that write them think a lot. They live a lot, and they feel a lot. Before the chorus dives into the stories and experiences that shape these artists, and ultimately, the music we hear. I'm your host, Sofia Loporcaro, and this episode's guest is Jack Garratt.
I think what I wanted more than anything was for the glass to break, for the crashing sound to happen, for there to be fanfare and fireworks, and for me to explode into enlightenment. Nope, I just realised the glass ceiling wasn't there and I continued to float upwards and grow emotionally. So what did I do? I gave myself a fanfare.
If you are a regular listener of the podcast, you may be aware that I have been gone for a couple of months. As I mentioned in the previous episode with Kilo Quiche, I moved back to Canada, and I am now doing my master's degree in interior design. So episodes from now on are going to be once a month instead of once a week, but I'm not going anywhere. I love doing this podcast too much to stop. I just needed to pivot a little bit in terms of how I eventually make money, because the music industry and the podcast industry are hard right now. So, thus the change. But hey, I'm really happy that I finally get to do this podcast as a real and true passion project, and I really get to just pour all of my love into it instead of stressing about building it as a business. So, I think things are going to be really, really fun ahead. And speaking of fun, I am so happy that my first guest back is Jack Garratt. I've been aware of Jack for a solid decade. He first started to come up around the time that I was living in London. That was between 2015 and early 2019. And so I've been kind of loosely following his music over the last several years. And then kind of out of the blue, we ended up following each other on Instagram a few months ago. He actually introduced me to one of my now friends here in Toronto, and we just kind of stayed in touch. And when he released his latest album, Pillars, I was like, you know what? I'd really love to have Jack on. I think he's going to have some really fascinating stuff to say. And he did. I mean, the stories behind this record are incredible, both from creative exhaustion and frustration with the music industry, and grappling with that while also finding joy in recording again, talking about imbalanced relationships, both between lovers, but between friends, and even more so between an artist and an audience. We get into so many interesting things, so I don't want to spoil too much for you, and I'm just going to let the interview speak for itself, as I always do. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Jack Garratt. We're going to talk about Pillars, which I am so stoked to get to do. I still remember when the first couple tracks from it came out. I have already listened to Catherine Wheel a stupid amount of times this year. It's a banger. It just is. So
Thank you.
Therefore, but we're going to talk, I think we're going to get to Catherine Wheel pretty quickly because it's quite pivotal to the creation of this record. But before we do, I want to kind of go a little further back in time than that. So I know that before making this record, you were debating giving up on music. And
yes,
I mean, you and I have spoken, just over DM about how frustrated we both are with our industry. So obviously I'm sure that's a factor, but were there any other things feeling creatively drained or just cynical about just other aspects of music, or what was the kind of not so perfect storm, if you will?
I think it's getting harder and harder to excuse having creative roles in our modern society. I think genuinely that's been a big part of it. It's getting harder to excuse it. Not that it needs excusing. I think that you've got a generation of people who, speaking for my generation, people who are now in their early 30s, mid 30s, generation people told as we were growing up that we could do whatever we wanted. A lot of us took that seriously, entered roles that are independent, entered roles that are freelance, and entered roles that are creative. And then the pandemic happened, and I mean, I know it was like this for the rest of the world, but especially over here in the UK, our government turned around and kind of just went, what do you mean you want to be a ballerina? You should learn tech. And we all sat there and went, but that's not our training, that's not what we're good at. And there was a strange kind of blame, both on the generation of millennials, as if we're all like these lazy so-and-sos who care more about avocados than we do about saving money. And then also this blame of like specifically creatives being like, well, come on, you should really be pulling your weight now. And we're like, no, we do pull our weight. I think the weird thing as well with the pandemic is there was such a resurgence of people going and listening and engaging with media and engaging with art and engaging with entertainment. But then there was very little, I should say, resources and funding then being allocated to that industry so that it could fucking survive the thing. Then you come out of that and look at the state of the world. and it gets harder to kind of say, I mean, what I was experiencing more than anything was the question I would ask myself a lot is, well, what's my place in it? I don't know where my place is in it. And I look at my like gold record on the wall and my awards that I've got on a little table in my living room. And I'm like finding it hard to meet next month's rent. And it feels like the spaces are getting smaller, but I'm not getting smaller. If anything, I'm trying to get bigger. And that for a long enough period of time, which for me was a few years of just like those two, what felt like an immovable object and a hard place, just constantly pushing against each other. It's exhausting. And ultimately, I think I'd be so surprised if musicians, artists, whatever, haven't at some point in the last few years looked at themselves intrusively and gone, do I want to do this? I think a lot of people, the answer is yes, I do. And they're still doing it. But I would be shocked if not a lot of us have sat there and had that conversation with ourselves.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've had like so many of these conversations with friends across the creative industries over the last few years. Yeah. I mean, these exact same things are why like the actor strikes and the writer strikes happened in LA last year. I still remember seeing a post that was saying like someone had found out that they were nominated for an Emmy at the same time that they were applying for a job at Target because their Emmy-nominated writing job is not paying them enough to be able to, not have to take on a second job. Like, it's super fucked. I mean, like, I've pivoted, this is my first episode back after taking like a couple months off to, deal with my move to Toronto. I'm going back to school to study interior design. Like, I'm not leaving the music industry altogether, but I've significantly scaled down my sort of professional involvement in it, because I couldn't see a sustainable path forward where I did this full time because it doesn't make money. So I think it's a position that all of us have been put in various levels. And I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I haven't quite figured out the way out of it either.
I think pessimism is hard because it's not that pessimism's the first place that we go, but it is where a lot of us have ended up finding ourselves. And I think when you think about it from just a human standpoint, from the standpoint of the human spirit, I should say, pessimism it's a scary place to be because I think more often than not, it implies that there has been hard work and hardship, right? It's not like I'm British and I'm a man. I'm deeply cynical in my bones. I have cynicism and I love my cynicism and I bring it with me in places where it's important. But a lot of my job is actually trying to leave cynicism along with my ego at the door. And not bringing it into spaces where it's not welcome. But like, I don't blame anyone for looking around and feeling pessimistic, especially when you are looked to as a source of optimism for other people. There's a well-filling inequality there that doesn't balance itself, that doesn't make sense. I would say And like, look, I'm in a better place now, and the record's been out, and it feels good. And I had a call with my manager today about what's next, and it's crazy to consider that the shelf life of an album is that limited, it's that small.
Mm-hmm.
But also I have a great idea for what I want to do next, and we're executing it. And there's less like bureaucratic tape for us to try and break. We're just doing things that we want to do. And that also, I think, is inspired by the pessimism, because it's like, oh, well, there's no obvious space for us, or no one really knows what they're doing. We're all just making it up as we go along. Okay, well then fuck it. Let's just do something. Let's get
Mm-hmm.
something done. And I do like that. I do like the space in which I'm entering, where I'm just a bit more like, fuck it. First thought, best thought. Let's crack on and see what happens. But the thing but I will say that I think, like, during the period in which I was the most uncertain and scared and depressed and sad about my place in my industry, it was, like I said earlier, the imbalance of that well of being looked to as a source of optimism for other people, but myself having none of it to use for myself. It's like, it's hard meeting fans, and some of them would say that my music, like, saved their life. That's hard for me to hear when I'm in a place in my life at the time going, interesting. It's making me wanna not kind of have mine. So, but I can't say that to them. I just have to be like, oh my God, thank you. Prayer hands, namaste. Thank you. That's so kind. Oh my God, thank you. That's so sweet. And then they go off. And I'm like, great. Well, now I've got that trauma drenched all over me. It's weird.
Yeah. It's hard. I remember talking to an artist called Monrovia about some similar stuff, that you almost become like either like the bringer of joy or the sort of like the wise
Yeah.
one that's
Ugh.
sharing your knowledge through art. And people forget that there is an equally, complex human behind that sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, like you said, it creates this massive imbalance where it's almost like you then have to like play the role of yourself when you recorded the album at all times, or at least the way that you sound in the album and the way that the album feels, rather
Yeah.
than, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think the thing I've learned, I think, is it just comes down to how you authentically want to present yourself at any given point. And as an
Mm-hmm.
artist, I do think that, like, I do think that over the 10 years I've been doing this job now, I've seen the industry move through certain iterations of itself. I've seen the relationship between artists and audience move through different iterations as well. And I think that we, that's artists, but also industry, I think we've given too much responsibility to the audience.
Mm.
And I think that something I've actively been doing actually is kind of acknowledging that, and then redefining what I think their role is. That,
Mm.
like, I can't blame them for turning to me to be a source of their joy. I also don't blame them to turning to me to be a source of wisdom. They agree with things in the songs I've written. I do think my job is to turn around and go, oh my God, great, that's your experience, that's yours, that's not my intention, that's not me. Like, when people say, for example, when people say, like, obviously trigger warnings for conversations around suicide, but like, when I
Mm.
have fans tell me that music of mine has saved their life, I make a big point of saying, and they always go, thank you. And I'm like, don't thank me. The song found you at a time when you needed it. That's not me doing that. That's the song. It's not me. And you should know that. There should be a separation of that, because you should be thanking the art. Thank the art. Like, don't put all of
Mm.
your faith into artists. You didn't vote for us. Like, we shouldn't be governing. Like, what's that Pete, there's a Pete Holmes quote I absolutely love, about art, where he says art is highly sensitive people reporting back to the rest of the group what reality is like for them. That's it.
I've heard
That's
that
it.
one before. That's a good one.
It's incredible. I mean, as far as like defining the concept of art goes, it does a really good job. But it's more, it translates the responsibility of the artist is to reflect life. That's it. I make a report and I put it out. Once I put it out, I surrender it. It's yours now. That's it. I'm done. Take me away from it. And then you can have whatever experience that you want. I think there just needs to be more transparency around that. The audience has a role, and their role is active. I think they should take more ownership over that.
And I like that. I think that's something I'm definitely going to sit with, because I'm sure like when I've thought about, you know, a song or an album, quote unquote, saving me when I've been going through hard times, I mean, I haven't always had the chance to tell an artist that. I guess like the only thing that I ever want to thank them for is like for, I guess, taking the time and the energy to create it so that it could find me, rather than, you know. But I also understand like what you're saying, that makes a lot of sense, where like, especially when music becomes tied to just all of the issues in the industry, all of the existential questions that brings up. And so for someone to say like, it saved my life, and yet it's the thing that you love but is also like draining you and putting you in this really tough spot, like that's understandably really tough.
Yeah, and again, part of the thing that drains you, it's like it's already been a couple of years of fighting that feeling of being drained and still working and writing. And like I always say that Pillars is an album that theoretically on paper works but shouldn't, like in terms of, or maybe it's the other way around. It's an album that on paper shouldn't exist but does. That's what I mean. It's an album made out of pure perseverance. I was dropped by my label, I was dropped by my management in the middle of in the middle of brokering the deal for Pillars. And and even by that point I'd already had my whole I think I want to give up moment. And then I went through another one, because I'm like, well, hang on, all of the support structures in place have now disintegrated around me. And my day-to-day manager stayed on with me, and she, through her own means, left the company that she was working for, and she and I managed to like continue to work together, and that's what made Pillars work. But that's what I mean, it's perseverance. It's like I showed up knowing I wasn't really able to. I was sad and exhausted. Sad's too easy of a word, but it's the only one I've got at the moment. I was exhausted, and no one else was going to produce the record. No one else was going to mix it. The album had to come out. I had to deliver something to a record label. And so I just showed up every day and did what I could. And so on paper, it's kind of like it shouldn't exist. All the points, all the roads lead to it not really being a thing, and yet it does. And that's like that's what brings me back to the whole, that Pete Holmes quote is, when artists say they have to do this, they have to make songs, it always kind of cringes me out a little bit, because I think it actually undermines what we do. We reflect, right? That's it. That's all we do. I don't think it's a heightened job. I don't think it deserves the glory that we as a society attribute to it. But I do think that I am a really good reflector, and I like the songs that I write. That's kind of all I have to do. Beyond that, the audience then has to show up. They have to show up. Yep. They have to take their role seriously and project their life onto the thing I'm reflecting. That's when it works. That's the only way it works.
I like that.
Yeah.
I
don't know how much of it I believe, but it sounds good.
I think it's very fair. I mean, like you said, or actually, I often say on this podcast that the meaning or the original meaning of a song when it was written, and the meaning that an audience member or listener subscribes to it or abscribes, whatever that word is,
whichever the one is,
the prescribes, abscribes, subscribe, one of those describes something. Scribes.
Scribes.
But those two meanings coexist, and I love the fact that they coexist. I don't think that one eliminates the other. I think there's sort of power in, like you said, in the audience playing an active role. Then these songs and these records become these living, breathing things that constantly evolve from era to era, from listener to listener, from context to context. Like it's really cool that gets to happen.
Oh, I can't stand a passive audience. Can't stand it. The arrogance of a passive audience. Fuck off. Do something. You've got a role. You've got a job to do. You've got ears. Listen. Listen and feel something. That's all you have to do. I say it on my shows all the time. I'm like, don't think I'm up here doing all of this so that you can stand there and do nothing. That's not how any of this works. I just have a microphone and a spotlight. That's the only thing that separates us. Like, you have an active role. You are 50% of the energy of this moment. Maybe more than that. But like, and that's, I think, a big thing, especially throughout this campaign, is I'm like, this is an album of perseverance. I bring that energy into then the way I communicate with my audience and with my fans. And I'm like, guys, show up, please. I did a thing. I almost put this out and I ended up not, because I was like, you got to pick and choose your battles and the hills on which you're willing to die. But I put this thing out recently saying, should I make a bunch of t-shirts that say content on them? Which I thought was hilarious. And I had like 500. It's a great t-shirt. And we made them because my fans were like, oh my God, yes, you have to do this. So I did it. We made a bunch of shirts. No one bought them. Like 5 people, maybe 10 people out of the 500. One. Well, I mean, no, because we can't sell them anymore because we only made them to order. That was the point. That's the way I can afford to do something like that. And so that's all, but it's also things like that where it's like, I'm in a point in my career now where when you audience say you're going to show up, it really means something. And then when you don't, it makes it harder for me to then bring the next thing I need you to show up for.
You know, it's really interesting you say that. So I was initially going to go to Catherine Wheel from here because of like kind of the like reigniting of creative spark. But I'm going to bookmark that for a second because exactly what you said about, you know, needing someone to meet you halfway, in this case, an audience.
Yeah.
Is very much the theme that shows up on Ready, Steady, Go and on Higher. Yeah. Even if it's in like a romantic context, it's like...
Oh, it's throughout the record.
Yeah. It's like, you need to meet me here too. It's like, I'm coming with depth. I'm coming with a willingness to give my all, to experience life or connections or whatever it may be in full saturation, good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
You need to meet me halfway.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like, yeah, I joke about this online a lot, but spoiler alert, the album is about a situationship. And there's so, yeah, baby, we went like,
Let's go.
Oh my God, the guy went through a divorce. There's not one song on the album about the divorce.
Oh my God.
Every single song is about the situationship. It fucked me.
They always do. Listen,
they do. But it's exactly what we're talking about. Like what I had in my marriage, and even though it wasn't successful and it ended, and like what I did have in the marriage, at least, or in the relationship leading up to it, was an intention set by 2 people to meet each other halfway. I think the reason why situationships fuck us up so much is because the whole reason they're situations is because one of the however many parties you're bringing into it are probably committing more than the rest. And I think those songs especially, because there's also an argument to be made. You're absolutely right. Ready, Steady, Go is about that. It's a song literally like telling someone, if you won't let me go into this feeling, then you have to let me go out into the world because this is hurting now. And you're breadcrumbing, and that's not fun for me. And Higher is the realization that they are letting you go out into the world, not letting you go into the feeling. But there's also an argument to be made for 2 Left Feet, which, though it feels like a song that is so deeply like romantic, it feels like a love song. I think that song is so much more toxic than people realize, because that song is saying like, that song I think is like a people pleasing anthem, where it's like willing someone to take the role that they are kind of showing you they don't want to take. I'm willing that person to meet me halfway. They've shown me that they won't. They've told me that they won't. And I'm like, no, but just, but think of what it could be if you did. I'm obliviously ignoring the person's wishes just because I am wanting something. Like that message is littered throughout the whole record, because that was a big thing that was happening in that situationship. Is I was waiting for someone's intentions to match what I thought their actions were. when they were telling me constantly that their intentions weren't ever going to do that, but then they would keep, you know, their actions confusingly. I mean, you get it. You're nodding your head in both approval and recognition.
And PTSD.
Yeah. Oh my God, great. Trauma comes from many places.
Yeah, I dated men in LA for 4 years, so
Congratulations. Honestly, I like. You look wonderful. You look young. Your skin looks virile. I'm assuming this was a while ago. Like you don't look so war torn. Is what I mean.
I mean, I did. The last person that I dated actually ended in a very like lovely and healthy way, which is great.
Nice.
But the
We love
people
that.
prior, yeah, so big ups to him.
Nice.
Everybody else. The
The
only reason I have good skin is because I'm good at concealer and I had a great esthetician. Yeah, my esthetician, I would go to her, we would bitch about the shitty men
Nice.
that we had met in LA, and she would work her magic and erase all signs that I had been emotionally and mentally fucked over from my
amen.
face.
And
yeah,
we
love her. Shout out Riley if you're in the LA area.
Thank you, Riley.
Yeah, go to Riley Lurin Aesthetics. She's the best. Anyway, that this wasn't supposed to be an ad for anybody, but it's turned into one. Here we are. But yeah, I really loved that theme coming in. One, because I relate to it like way more than I wish I did. I'm definitely, as much as I like half dislike the concept of attachment styles, I definitely lean more anxious than I do like avoidance. So thus like
100%.
I'm right. So I'm same, like I'm the kind of person that if what someone's saying they want and the way they're behaving don't quite match, I will sometimes I'll ask for clarity, and of course they won't properly give it. They'll just make shit more confusing, but that's its own thing. But I also realize that that's something that shows up as we just talked about in an audience and artist relationship, in friendships, in professional relationships, like in our industry, like working your ass off. You know, you talk about that like uneven filling of the wells. Like the audience is part of that, but the industry itself is part of that too. It's like I can, you know, like you can applaud me all you want, but at some point I need a fucking paycheck.
Yeah,
you know?
I did. I mean, like I've been. That's a hill I'll gladly die on. Is trying to encourage the industry to just take more responsibility over the artists on its rosters. Trying to encourage labels, I should say specifically, to take more responsibility for the artists on its rosters. And I've spoken about that at length, I think, in other places and on other podcasts and stuff, where I don't have any of the answers. I don't think it's my job to have the answers, but like as an artist, I can tell you that the responsibility isn't there, and it should be. Like these massive buildings have HR departments and have things in place to protect the people that work in those buildings, and then that stops the minute you start talking about the talent or the creative that brings the music that the industry builds its empires on. Like we exploit the mental health of the artists that we listen to, but we sign up for it. I sign a piece of paper, literally every single record deal I do, I sign a piece of paper that may as well just say, I give this record label licensing rights to exploit my mental health.
Yep.
But it doesn't say that, because if it did say that, then we could probably also argue that within our budget, we should have allocated X amount of money for mental health services.
Yeah. But the thing is, and I've had this same conversation with so many of my friends in the music industry, and what I came to is that, I mean, I'm not like a full-time musician, I'm a podcaster, but in any kind of dynamic where you're signed to a label or a network or something, you're not an employee, you're the product, and therefore you get treated like the product.
Yeah,
there's no infrastructure for you.
Well, but the thing I find insane about that is that if you found out that your product was performing poorly, you would do things to make sure that the product wasn't performing poorly. Whereas within our industry, the creative industries, product performs poorly, gut it, kill it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I guess
No, I'm the product. Figure out what's wrong with me, make me better, and put me out.
yeah. It's just
That's where I think the responsibility is that's lacking. Is it's like you wanna make a better product. That's fine. Talk about me like I'm a product. I'm okay to be spoken about like that in this situation. But then I'm telling you, as the product, the way in which I would work better is if you gave me resources, allowed me access to resources to be able to better my health, both mentally and physically. I'm telling you that the job would be better and I would make you a better product. But you won't listen to that, so you won't act on that. And instead, you'll offer those things because you know it's important, because that's hot right now to talk about that within the music industry. You'll offer that instead to the people who work within the building. And don't get me wrong, they deserve it as well. Jesus Christ, being an A&R is hard. Like, being a product manager is hard right now. Working at a label is insane. So's being an artist. Can we put some of the resources back into that? Would be great. Would love to see it.
I mean, same. I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think they treat the products less like a smaller business would treat their products and more like a Shein would, where it's like, if this shirt's not selling, just take it off the website,
get rid of it.
mark it down.
Yeah.
And it's very objectifying, and
that's a really good way of putting it.
I mean, quite literally, it's like
but...
yeah. It's super fact. Everything's on fire.
We're all having a great time.
Everybody's great. We're all happy. There's no problems ever at all.
No.
On that note, let's talk about Actually, do I want to talk about the happy song, or do I want to like swim in the toxic stuff for just a little bit longer?
That's on you, baby.
You know what? I take as cheesy as it is, I like taking the approach of like ending on a high note. Because you know what, life is.
Yeah, right. Life is too sticky anyway. I get it. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a very like Disney approach. But you know what? We have enough sad art films out there to fill the quota.
We need more of that shit anyway. I'm with you. I agree.
Right. It's the Mamma Mia approach, we'll say. That's what it is. So we'll get to Catherine Wheel. I've decided I'm going to put it at the end. I'm going to save it for last because it feels happy. But I
can't wait to prove you wrong. I can't wait to prove you wrong about it.
Listen, I can sense based on everything that we've talked about that thematically it's not going to be the happiest song. But from the lens of how it sounds,
that's okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, and also just talking about the creative process. Hopefully there's some happiness in that. But thematically, I'm well aware that we're kind of swimming in the same territory. I got it.
Good. I'm glad you understand.
I do understand. You weren't about to like totally burst my bubble, and
I gave you
like,
a few.
Yeah, good. We're all good.
Yeah, great. That's good.
But I guess speaking of the like what you were saying about Two Left Feet sort of was interesting to me because it kind of made me re-examine a couple other songs. I mean, one I already knew was kind of like Toxic, which is lost like the idea of like just letting yourself think on a past lover even though you know you shouldn't, but when life's hard it's comforting to think of like old love.
Like familiarity is familiarity even if it's drenched in the face of someone who makes you feel hot for the wrong reasons. Like it's nice to think like I'm like I those man, there's nothing that makes my stomach more queasy than having to think about someone in a time-space setting where I'm just not thinking I'm going to think about them. But then weirdly, it does comfort the thing in my brain that the thing that needs the validation. Part of the reason why, I maybe was with that person in the first place. Like it does weirdly still comfort that. I like that song. I do. I think it's one of the unsung heroes on the record. I think lyrically it's really fun. I also just really love the idea. I remember my brother and my sister-in-law, I showed them that song. Like I wrote that, Flower Girl Confetti, and I think Flight the Bee. I wrote those 3 songs in like the same week. and it was right at the end. It was as I was about to start mixing the record, they just came and they knocked 3 other songs off the running list for the album. And I remember showing my brother and my sister-in-law Lost. And when it got to the bit in the chorus, the left and left and left, then back to you, I remember pausing it and just asking them, I was like, I think that line is really good. Does it make sense? Do I need to put another left in there? And they were like, and then we all stood there like in a triangle and just tried and figured out the geometry of whether that lyric made sense. It was really fun. But I do love that line so much. But it's influenced or it's inspired, I should say, by the opening number to Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim for the musical Into the Woods. The whole
I was
idea
in Into the Woods in uni.
Yeah, of course you were. As a main character or as ensemble?
I fucking
Can I
wish I
guess?
was one of the. Yeah. Say.
I was going to say,
yes.
no, wait. Were you in the ensemble or were you in main cast?
More ensemble. I mean, I had a role.
Were you one of the sisters?
I was one of the sisters.
Nice. Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Hard part. Those harmonies are rough.
It's
Yeah.
like something's trying to do my hair, Cinderella.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that Sondheim does is extremely difficult. I love Sondheim, but also what the hell?
Yeah. No, I have a tattoo of the 3 rules of making a good lyric. Of his
nice.
3 rules. Yeah. But that song Lost, there's the whole point of it being in the woods and all of that kind of stuff is directly inspired by all the themes from Into the Woods.
I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to it and trace it back. Oh, yes.
Dash a dog.
Just a dog. Sally's just sitting here. Do you want to be part of this? Sadie, do you want to come and sit? Here, we'll let her be part of the end bit of this interview.
Mine's outside.
Love it. She just did a big stretch. Come here. Up. Oh, polite. Oh, yeah.
Show me the dog. Oh,
Here's
Dash a dog.
This is a dog. This is Sally.
Look at that distinguished gentleman.
It's a
Look at
lady.
her eyes. Look at this lady. Look at this sweet lady.
There we go.
Those are just
You say
marbles.
hello.
No, you don't even understand what the screen is.
So the other song, this is the one that I found myself kind of coming back to and wanting to re-examine, which is Love Myself Again, because I could totally read it one of 2 ways, which on one hand, you could talk about the idea of a partner that really lifts you up and kind of reminds us that healing happens relationally. On the other hand, it can also be putting pressure on another person to kind of save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
So, which one is it?
Which one is it? Yeah, I saw this thing today, which is a message to young men, just being she's not your rehab. It gives that. No, to be honest. So what's really interesting about that song is I wrote that song. I wrote that song for my wife at the time. I wrote that in 2019 with 2 friends of mine, James Flanagan and Henry Brill, 2 incredible writers. Henry's based out in Nashville now. James is in LA, but we all grew up in West London in our early 20s together. And we wrote that in Nashville, 2019. I love that song. I've always wanted to do something with that song, and just kind of didn't really have anywhere to put it. Didn't really know what to do with it. And when I was putting songs together for this record, it just kept coming back. But obviously, I'm no longer in that marriage, and I didn't know if it felt weird or if it felt honoring in the wrong way or in the right way to sing a song about my ex like that, especially because it was written with the intention of being so no. I was deeply depressed. I still suffer from depression, but I was deeply, deeply depressed. And the love that this person gave me helped me to remember or helped me to realize or uncover that I am worthy of my own love in that same way, right? That it's what their love represents, not, hey, you are the sole responsibility of me loving myself, because that's not fair. That's impossible. That's a giant red flag. But then as I was like looking at the song and coming back to it, looking at the lyrics, it ended up becoming a song that I sang on the record for my friends for the same reasons, right? It's the same reason, it's the same love song, it's the same intention, but the you in it is like still my ex-wife. She was my best friend at the time, but it's now also for all of my best friends. It's all of the times when the critic voice in my head gets too loud. You don't make the critic, you don't make the critic go away, but you drown that voice out with friendliness and familiarity, and you're not telling me I'm the best thing in the world. You're just telling me that I'm lovable by simply existing. Yeah, so that's the point of the song. But I also do kind of really love the more toxic way of looking at it.
I guess I was curious of like, because my initial read on it was the healthier one, and I guess I was curious after
Good,
like
good.
talking about the
Look at us both growing.
yay, we're not
Yay!
always cynical most of the
Yeah,
time, but
most
sometimes
of the time.
we're not. I guess I was trying to look at it through the different lenses because, like, talking about the kind of more toxic side of other songs on the record, I was like, maybe I want to look at it through different lenses. And you know what? That's me being an active audience member.
That's you being an active listener.
I'm listening to it. I'm looking at it different ways. I'm letting
There
it
you go.
evolve and grow and breathe and ascribing it a multitude of meanings. Like,
I love this. I love this. I love
there
this.
you go.
I knew I liked you for a reason, Sophia. I knew it.
Yay!
Yay! Active listening.
We're doing our best.
Yeah, no, but that, which is also the only thing that we can do. But also, I'm like, look, there are so many songs on this record that you could see being like that. There's a few songs that as in, what I mean by that is there's a few songs on the record that could be for the self, or could be for a romantic partner, or could be for a platonic partner. But again, that's where like that Pete Holmes quote just comes back, which is my job is to report the world as I experience it. It's given life by other people's projections. It's given life by other people's lives. I love that is a song I haven't ever once considered could have a toxic flag attached to it. And the one that you've put on it is really lovely. I like it. That's a really great reading of the song. It's certainly not mine, but it is one of them.
Yeah. I like the idea one of getting to do exactly that, ascribe these different meanings. But I also find that the difference between like healthy like co-regulation in friendships, in relationships, in any dynamic versus sort of codependency or expecting someone to save you, it's such a like knife's edge of difference.
Yeah.
And one is really, really beautiful and really, really healthy, and the other is very much the opposite. Because they're so similar, I think some people just assume that like you can't do any healing interrelationally, that it's like solely your responsibility to do it in isolation by yourself all the time, which is also not true. But it's I just find that such an interesting one. It's only in recent years that I've learned how to be like, I don't have to be like fully healed or fully perfect yet to show up to relationships, to show up to friendships. Now, obviously, like at the end of the day, my own healing, like the kind of final word, if you will, is my own responsibility. And I have to hold myself accountable to how I show up. But like the way that like Love Myself Again has become something that, really honors your friendships. Like our friends are often the people that prove to us that people can show up fully, can be actively, like, I guess, active listeners, both in like the creative sense, but in the personal sense, that can meet you in your depth. And that in and of itself is a powerful version of healing. So with that in mind,
that's a really lovely way of thinking about it, of like interrelational healing. Because I think I definitely come from a school of having been a serial monogamist and jumping from relationship to relationship and not giving myself the time by myself to do any work, growth, healing. Like there's not a male loneliness epidemic. There is a male skills gap. Like I didn't have the skills to be there for myself. And I've had to take a lot of time to then just be by myself and live by myself and love myself by myself. And that's been really important. But I totally agree with you that within that self, there's also, within that self healing, me doing the work, taking the bulk of that responsibility. There's also been so many interrelational healing moments of healing with my friends and with my family. Like when I put the album together, when I pitched it to myself and called it Pillars and had this idea, it came from something I brought up in therapy, which is that I said to my therapist, I was like, I feel like I have these 3 pillars to my love, to both the way that I give it, the way that I receive it. There is a self-love, there is a romantic love, there is a platonic love. And I feel like my self-love pillar is so weak and vulnerable and breaking that it's putting unfair weight on the other 2. And I don't know how to repair the self one. I don't know how to do it. And that there in the acknowledgement of it is the first step in the repairing, in the rebuilding of that. But like, I can't shut down all 3 of them just to focus on the work that needs to be done on one of them. I do the work that needs to be done on one of them, and I still cater to the other 2 because it is my love that we're talking about. It's the way that I can't just shut my love off, as much as I kind of sometimes wish I could. I am a Libra through and through, and I love easily and flirt with anything that moves. And so while I am doing my self-healing thing, I've still got my friends that I want to love, and I've still got my family that I want to love. And also within all of that, like, yeah, I did grapple for a long time with the whole idea that, like, no, I have to work on myself and be the person I want to put into a relationship, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of believe that less. I agree with you more that, like, there's no perfect version of me. There's no healed version of me. There's no finished version. There is only the version that I authentically can see and love and bring with me happily, without having to excuse or apologize for. Just bring with me to the rooms I'm showing up in.
Yeah. And ironically, I think when we don't acknowledge the importance of like interrelational healing and the fact that we don't need to show up perfectly, again, ironically ends up being a detriment to your ability to love yourself, because it creates this sort of complex that's like, well, I'm only good enough to be a friend, to be a partner, to be a this, to be a that, if I am fully healed. And because that is literally impossible,
it's impossible.
Then you can never love yourself fully, because you're never fully at this benchmark that you've set for yourself.
The love you give and the love you receive will never be satisfying, because it will never meet up to an expectation that you have, because your expectations are too high. So bring those expectations down, baby.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we are going to talk about Catherine Wheel and all of its joy, its toxicity, its complexity, it's just everything that it is. I mean, I love it because, again, if we're talking purely sonically, not about lyrics, it is pure euphoria. It makes me feel the same way that a song like Roller Coaster by Bleachers makes me feel, which is just like, it's, I put it in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a playlist that I called Free Dopamine, and Catherine Wheel's on it, Roller Coaster's on it. Kool-Aid by Royal Otis is on it, Sun by Two Door Cinema Club. Like, it's just all those songs that are just so, like, so vibrant. A lot of them have that sort of, like, forward-moving feel to, like, the percussion in them. They're big, they're anthemic. And like I said, it just feels like a hit of dopamine. And so I guess, I mean, we'll definitely talk about what it's about, but before we do, we're going to kind of go full circle a little bit. Because I know that song represented a big turning point for you in terms of wanting to continue to do music. And I'm sure, like, there's more than one moving part. It's not just this one song. But what about making Catherine Wheel sort of helped, like, relight some fire, or, like, kind of bring you back into wanting to continue to make music?
I think it just reminded me that I could do it. I think it just... like, I'm in a similar place at the moment where I've done a lot of outpouring, and the well isn't that full, and I need to go and fill the well up again so that I can kind of take from it again. And the cycle continues for another round. Like at that time, I think I was just really stuck. And I tell you what it was. I think I was stuck in my ego's expectation of what the music I was writing should sound like. And that song came ego free. It came egoless. I think like it didn't sound like a me that it didn't sound like a me that I was trying to parrot. It just sounded like a me that was authentic. Like I could sit there. I remember going through a period with this record where I was like, but I don't have a song on it that sounds like Weathered. Oh, I don't have a song on it that sounds like Time or Worry. And first of all, Jesus Christ, I empathize so much with him, with that me at that time, because I was so worried about it. And I was because I was writing a song from a place of ego. And I think it was around that period where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I have the ability anymore. I don't think I like the songs I'm writing. I can't finish any of them, blah, blah, blah. And then like went through this thing emotionally, and it shook enough of the pieces that when the dust settled, Catherine was there. And it was a real moment of just like, I had these chords. They're not complicated. They're not crazy. They're very simple. And the lyric and the melody kind of appeared in my throat as written. Which is why I call it like the true north for the record. Not sonically, not necessarily lyrically, but just in terms of like intention and ambition. It was a song that came, like I said, stripped of ego and just was a song I needed to write. And then every single song I wrote for the album after that had to follow suit, had to follow that same like definition. Not as a finished piece, but during the process, I would like check in with myself and be like, where are you writing this from? Are you writing it from the ears of the listeners that aren't in the room? Or are you writing it because it is a song that is in your carbon? And are you just exercising it?
I like that. I know I've said that before here, but there's been some good nuggets. No, like there's been some real good nuggets. For that reason, I'm still, at least from my interpretation, you could take it or leave it. In its own way, I'm going to categorize it as a happy song, because even if lyrically we like, there's all kinds of complexity to it. For me, what makes me feel joy thinking about it is, yes, sonically, but also the fact that it helped you come back to a place of honesty. Like, I think there's like a deeper joy in like coming home to yourself as a creative, hopefully.
I agree with that. I tell you what, I'll say it like this. I think you'll like this. I had this other thing I brought to therapy when I was like doing all this work on myself and trying to grow and murder my ego, right? That's kind of like what I'm trying to do. I'm writing a book called Ego Murders for that exact reason. And I would talk to my therapist about how I felt like my emotional growth was stuck, and that I was hitting a glass ceiling. And the way I would describe it to her is I would say that like the pressure building underneath me, the reason I've flown so high, that pressure is still there, right? That thrust is still there. But there is just this glass ceiling that I can't see. And I'm squishing between it and the thrust underneath me. And the glass ceiling just won't break. It won't go away. And I remember saying to her, I was like, I need the glass to crack, because if it doesn't, I will. And I was going through this thing of like, how do I break the ceiling? Because I can see through it and I can see the infinite space of growth beyond. And if only this fucking glass ceiling would get out of the way. And then I came to therapy one day and I went, I said to my therapist, I was like, I've got it. And she goes, what? And I go, the glass ceiling isn't there. It never was. And she goes, yeah, it was never there. And I was like, I didn't get the fanfare I wanted. I think what I wanted more than anything was for the glass to break, for the crashing sound to happen, for there to be fanfare and fireworks, and for me to explode into enlightenment. Nope. I just realized the glass ceiling wasn't there, and I continued to float upwards and grow emotionally. So what did I do? I gave myself a fanfare, and I think that's what Catherine Will is.
It certainly sounds like one.
I think it's me writing the fanfare of my own, like, emotional enlightenment, because I didn't get one in reality.
I mean, it's a pretty good one for that.
I got to bring my ego with me somewhere.
Hey, we're all allowed to have a little bit of it. We're human.
I can't leave it at the door all the time. My ego wanted some trombones. I gave it some trombones.
It needed some trombones, some like,
what can I do?
Like gospel-y, like harmonies.
What do you expect me to not do that? Yeah.
No. No one would ever expect you to not do that.
God, don't be silly.
Pillars is available now wherever you normally get your music.
This podcast is hosted, edited, and produced by myself, Sofia Loporcaro, and the artwork is by Meg Wilford.